Some stories are meant to be forgotten. This one refused to disappear. In the heart of a city that never sleeps, a quiet woman discovered a truth too big to ignore. She wasn't a spy. She wasn't a cop. Just a name, lost in a file until she vanished. What you're about to hear is based on real events. A true crime story of silence, fear, and courage. So put on your headphones, dim the lights, and listen closely, because this is the story of the girl who knew too much. Anaya Mehta's world was one of routine. Every morning, she left her Lower Parel apartment at 8:15 sharp. Same navy blue blazer, same tan leather satchel. She preferred the crowded Mumbai local train to a cab, said it reminded her that she wasn't alone. She stood in the same compartment, leaned against the same pole, and always wore wired earphones. She listened to calm piano or old ghazals. Never news, never noise. She worked at Redcore Bank, a glass and steel tower in BKC. Her floor smelled like carpet and tension. As a senior compliance officer, her job was simple: read numbers, find errors, report anything suspicious. Most of the time, the numbers were boring. But she liked it that way. She was the quiet kind. Not shy, just observant. While co-workers gathered at the office cafe to gossip, Anaya took her tea alone. She read articles on corruption cases. She highlighted paragraphs in financial law journals. She had no interest in power, but she was drawn to truth. Her flatmate, Sonia, often joked, "If you ever go missing, at least your files will be neat." That September, Redcore underwent an internal restructure. Her supervisor gave her access to a portfolio connected to foreign investments. "Just routine work," he said. "Mark anything weird." Anaya started late that Friday evening. The office was nearly empty. Outside, the city blurred in rain. 10 minutes in, she frowned. Several entries didn't make sense. The amounts were large, very large. 1.8 Indian rupees crore to a company called Zenith Gold LLC. 3.2 Indian rupees crore to Alsham Holdings. Over 12 Indian rupees crore in total, routed through shell firms in Dubai over just 2 months. The entries were vague: consulting fee, vendor adjustment, expansion allocation. But there was no paper trail, no contract files, no email correspondence. Anaya flagged the transactions, marked them as requires review. She left a note, unable to verify recipient ownership or service rendered. On Monday, she returned to work and found her access to the Dubai folder revoked. She raised it with her supervisor, Mr. Khatri. He waved it off, some reshuffling in access rights. Nothing urgent, but something about his tone felt rehearsed. That evening, Anaya took screenshots of every document she'd seen and copied them to a pen drive. She encrypted the drive and hid it in a compartment behind the mirror in her apartment, just in case. The next day, something stranger happened. Her office desktop froze. When it restarted, her browser opened automatically, showing a website for Swiss watches. She hadn't typed anything. Her antivirus software had been disabled. Later that week, she noticed a white Skoda following her as she walked from the station to home. She took a longer route. It followed. That night, someone had moved her books. She always kept them perfectly aligned, but the top one was upside down. Anaya wasn't someone who panicked easily. She had dealt with tough audits, grueling clients, and corporate politics before, but this felt different. This wasn't about numbers anymore. It was about someone watching her. That weekend, she made a decision. She created an anonymous Proton Mail account and sent a message to a journalist she had read about, Raghav Sinha, an independent investigative reporter who had once exposed a telecom scam linked to senior bureaucrats. Her email read, Redcore Bank, Dubai-linked shell firms, political connections. I have proof. She attached one document, just one, showing a 2.3 Indian rupees crore transfer to a company whose director shared a surname with a cabinet minister. Raghav replied within an hour. Can we talk? Even 10 minutes. I can protect your identity. She didn't respond. She was scared, but also determined. Over the next week, she began preparing a detailed report. Every transaction, every irregularity, every internal email. She recorded voice memos at night, whispering into her phone in the dark, chronicling everything. Then came the first real warning. A small envelope arrived at her office desk. No stamp, no address, just a plain white card inside. It said, "Stop digging, or we'll bury you with what you find." Raghav Sinha wasn't easily rattled. He had exposed scams involving ministers, black money, and defense deals. He'd received threats before, some direct, others disguised as friendly warnings. But something about the Red Corps tip felt different. He tried tracing the anonymous sender. Couldn't. He pinged contacts inside Red Corps. One confirmed quietly. A compliance officer flagged something big. Her access got pulled. Then she went silent. 2 days later, Raghav sent another message. I think you're in danger. I know people who can help. He never got a reply. On October 8th, Raghav was driving to meet a source when his car spun out of control on the Eastern Express Highway. Witnesses said the road was dry. No skids. No brake marks. His car crashed into a divider and flipped twice. He died on the spot. Police ruled it an accident. Anaya saw the news the next morning. She dropped her coffee. He was the only one she had reached out to. That evening, she whispered into her phone recorder. Raghav is dead. I think they're watching me. I've stored everything. If anything happens, I didn't do it to myself. Please believe that. She saved the recording to the hidden pin drive behind her mirror. Then she called her old friend Mira. I feel like I'm running out of time, she said softly. But I'm not giving up. The threats escalated. That Friday, someone tried to reset her company email password from an unregistered IP in Malaysia. The same night, her gas stove knob was left open when she returned home. The smell was faint, but real. Her windows had been slightly ajar, ones she never left open. The building's watchman said no one unusual had entered, but her instinct told her otherwise. She installed a second bolt on the door, bought a small hidden camera, and placed it near the mirror. 2 days later, she received an email from her own ID, a draft she had never written. It said, I'm done. I can't take this pressure. I'm sorry. She panicked. Who had access to her account? She changed all her passwords, backed up her files to a second USB, and emailed a backup copy to a lawyer friend in Bengaluru, without explaining what it was. That night, she wrote a message on paper and taped it under her kitchen shelf. If you find this after I'm gone, check behind the mirror. She knew she was being hunted. She just didn't know when they would come. October 26, 2018. It was a Friday. Anaya left work early that day. Her co-workers thought she looked pale, withdrawn. Her supervisor, Mr. Khatri, asked if she was feeling okay. She just nodded, collected her bag, and walked out. CCTV footage showed her entering her apartment building at 7:42 p.m. She stopped to speak briefly with the security guard. She even smiled. She went up to her flat, ordered Chinese takeout at 8:10. The delivery boy rang the bell at 8:45. She answered, paid in cash, and said thank you. That was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. Around 2:04 a.m., the building's camera system glitched. A 9-second blackout. It had never happened before, or since. At 8:25 the next morning, her flatmate Sonia returned from her overnight shift at the hospital. She knocked on the door. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. Worried, she got the building supervisor. They unlocked the door. Inside, the flat was cold. Silent. Anaya was lying on the couch, eyes closed, a half-empty glass of red wine beside her, an open pill bottle. Her laptop was on the coffee table, but wiped clean. No documents. No browser history. The air smelled faintly of gas, like someone had opened the valve, then shut it again hours later. Police ruled it a suicide. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. They found a note on her desk. I'm tired. I'm sorry, but Sonia was certain the handwriting wasn't hers. The post-mortem said death by overdose of prescription sedatives. But Anaya didn't take sleeping pills. Sonia had lived with her for 3 years. She knew Anaya feared medication, even avoided painkillers. Her parents demanded answers. They begged the police to investigate further. The police said there was no foul play. Case closed. The story barely made news. Just a few lines in the Sunday Metro column. Red Corps bank officer dies by suspected suicide. Financial stress possible cause. That week, a new compliance officer took her place. The files she had flagged were marked error corrected. And life moved on. Except for one man, a retired officer reading about her in the back pages of an old newspaper. Inspector Arun Deshmukh had retired 3 years ago. A quiet man with tired knees and a sharp mind. He once led Mumbai's white-collar crimes unit. He'd cracked forgery rings, corporate frauds, and financial scams that had ruined families and toppled careers. When he read the brief article about Anaya, something stuck. A compliance officer. Redcore Bank. Sudden suicide. No history of mental illness. Faint smell of gas. Laptop wiped clean. Too neat. Too convenient. He began asking questions. He spoke with the watchman of Anaya's building. The man said she was quiet, polite, never troubled anyone. But yes, she had seemed nervous the past few weeks, often looking over her shoulder, rushing inside, locking the door. Deshmukh requested access to the CCTV feed. He was told the files were overwritten, except for the 9-second glitch. Convenient. He visited Sonia, Anaya's flatmate. She showed him the kitchen shelf and the paper Anaya had taped there. If you find this after I'm gone, check behind the mirror. Deshmukh stepped into Anaya's room. The place had been cleared, but the mirror was still hanging. He examined the frame, ran his fingers along the edge, and felt it. A tiny loosened panel at the back. Inside, a pen drive, labeled, "If I Die." He took it home, plugged it into his offline laptop, and what he found made him sit in stunned silence. The drive held over 50 documents, balance sheets, internal Redcore memos, transaction approvals, emails between executives. Every file cross-referenced. There were also 12 audio memos. Anaya's voice, clear, steady, a little scared, but determined. "If you're listening, it means they got to me. I'm not suicidal. I didn't drink. I didn't take pills. I was followed. Watched. Gas leak wasn't an accident." She went on to describe the fake companies, the diverted crores, the connections to Dubai, and a name, Mahesh Rawat, cabinet minister, publicly clean, privately, involved in foreign real estate and dummy firms. Anaya had uncovered payments routed through Redcore's shell firms to Rawat's offshore accounts. Deshmukh knew he couldn't take this to the local police. They'd shut it down. He needed the media, but carefully. He reached out to a former student, now a rising anchor at a national news network. She agreed to run the story, but only with irrefutable evidence. He handed her the drive. 3 days later, the firestorm began. The news dropped like a thunderclap. Whistleblower's death linked to Indian rupee 80 crore scam. Minister, bank officials under lens. The story went national in hours. TV panels debated Anaya's name. People asked why no one listened when she was alive. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Justice for Anaya. Hashtag Redcore Leaks. The files were leaked online. Internet sleuths pored over them. Journalists uncovered more, matching property records in Dubai to shell firms Anaya had flagged. CBI announced an inquiry. They raided Redcore's Mumbai office and seized hard drives. 2 senior executives, the same ones who had approved those shady transactions, were arrested. Minister Mahesh Rawat was called in for questioning. His face, once stoic and untouchable, flickered with strain on TV. But Deshmukh wasn't celebrating. He knew how this game worked. The system could rage like fire and then vanish like smoke. 2 weeks later, Rawat was cleared due to insufficient evidence. One of the arrested executives turned witness and was granted bail. The other died of a heart attack before trial. CBI reclassified the case as pending further inquiry. News anchors moved on. The hashtags faded, and Anaya's name slowly slipped from the headlines. Deshmukh kept digging. He went back to the building's maintenance room and demanded the original DVR from the CCTV system. The manager claimed it had been formatted and reused. But one copy, just one, had been exported for internal testing. It showed the 2:04 a.m. glitch the night Anaya died. Deshmukh slowed it frame by frame. At 2 hours 3 minutes and 54 seconds, Anaya's door was shut. At 2 hours 4 minutes and 1 second, the footage cut to black. At 2 hours 4 minutes and 10 seconds, it returned. The door was now slightly open. No one seen entering. No one exiting. But something had changed. A silent ghost in 9 seconds. He sent the clip to a forensic tech friend. The verdict: looks like someone used a jamming device to blank the recording for just a few seconds. Pro stuff. Not ordinary. It was proof someone had entered. But by then, no one wanted to reopen the case. Anaya's death remained officially a suicide. Unofficially, it became a warning to every other whistleblower. A year passed. The city moved on, as it always does. Redcore Bank posted record profits. Minister Mahesh Rawat gave speeches on transparency and digital governance. The media chased new scandals. But in a quiet corner of Pune, Inspector Arun Deshmukh lit a single candle on October 27th, the day Anaya's body was found. He placed it beside a photo of her on his desk, smiling, bright-eyed, unaware of how far the truth would take her. He had taken early retirement again, this time for good, but he couldn't stop thinking about her, about the courage it took to fight a silent war, about how a 28-year-old woman stood alone against an empire of fraud. He continued to teach part-time at a law college. On his first day of class every year, he told his students a story. Not all heroes wear uniforms. Some carry ID cards, some carry flash drives, and some never live to tell their own tale. He never said her name in public, but every year, on October 27th, he lit a candle in her memory. He wasn't the only one. Over time, anonymous candles began to appear in other cities, Delhi, Bangalore, even Dubai. People who read her story, people who believed her, people who knew the price of truth. Her pen drive now sits in a sealed evidence box, untouched, but its contents have spread, on servers, in safe hands, in quiet corners of justice waiting to rise. Anaya Mehta didn't die in vain. Her silence became the loudest scream in the dark. Some truths are buried, some are erased, but the ones spoken by the brave, they echo, they wait, and one day, they rise again. This was the story of Anaya Mehta, the girl who knew too much. Good night.